my people, how una day? Thank you all for tuning in into this our channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on the location where you dey watch me for. From this our channel, now here we dey bring news, we dey react to videos, celebrities matter when it dey happen for inside Obodo Naija, and we dey bring out the con dey give una as e dey hot. So my people, I get interesting video when I want make we all watch. My people, but before we go watch just video, I beg if you dey meet us for the first time, make you not forget to subscribe, like, and help us to share the video so that make other people they see waiting they happen. So my people, make you watch this video to the end, and at the end of the video make you leave your own thought what you think concerning this video, and me myself I will still honor at the end of this video to give my own personal thoughts concerning the video. So let's watch this video together.
To ability and performance, saying that the day for political gameship was long gone. Tiunbu, in a statement he personally signed yesterday, said while there had been talks of government of national unity, his aim was much higher because he sought a government of national competence, reiterating that he will assemble competent men and women and young people from across Nigeria to build safer and more prosperous Nigeria. The president-elect noted that an important step towards restoring economic normalcy had been taken by the Supreme Court decision on the parity of old and new notes. He said that this had restored both the rule of law and the economic decency, and adding that this was not the end of the story but the beginning of more comprehensive solutions to the country's economic challenges. A lot to talk about this, Ayo.
Yes, I must say that the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has spoken very well. In the speech or the statement that he made, or not a speech, was a statement that he signed, he addressed some critical issues. He talked about the combination of what would be the composition of his cabinet once he's sworn in as president. And one of the things he said very emphatically is that it will be based on competence. He's assuring us that he's going to put in young men and women across Nigeria based on competence, and he actually emphasized the fact that it would not be sentimental to religious beliefs, or you would not be discriminated whether you pray in church or you choose to pray in the mosque. And this speaks to a number of things that have happened in this current administration in terms of the allegations or perhaps accusations of nepotism by the current president, Muhammadu Buhari. Therefore, speaking to that, and of course, the ethnic bias that we have seen and heard in the last few days and during campaigns, both during the presidential elections and now towards the gubernatorial elections. Now, to give merit to his statements, if we look at his antecedents and his appointment, give it to the president-elect. One of the things he's been known to do quite well is in his appointments and how varied they are. Use Lagos State as a yardstick when he was governor. It was under his administration that we saw President Yemi Osinbajo emerge as Attorney General of the state. It was under his administration that we had Babatunde Raji Fashola, SAN, emerged as Chief of Staff, now later on went on to become Governor of the state of Lagos State, and then now Minister of Works and Housing. We also had under his administration as Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Ben Akabueze, the first appointment from the East, I must emphasize, as Commissioner of Budget and Economic Planning. So these are some of the key appointments amongst a number of things a number of people that he appointed. So one of the strengths of the president-elect's leadership is his ability to identify talent and be able to match talent to put to position and assemble a good team around him. Of course, not all of them, ended up being great. Some of them, he had a few rotten eggs amongst the pack, but majority of it would say that he's done well, and he was able to give them the needed, I believe, powers to do what they had to do. So give that to him. Based on that antecedent, we can give merit to this statement. However, I would like to take his attention to the fact that he said women. And under his administration, yes, there were some women like Chief Mrs. Kemi Nelson and a few others like Chief Teju Phillips, but he could have done better in terms of female representation in government and perhaps more, younger people represented. So this is great. And a few other things he said, I'm sure Dr. Bati and Rufai, you touch on those things. But just to mention that the work ahead of the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, now the president-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is very deep. It's huge. The task ahead with limited resources in line with our debt profile. However, with a great team, we do believe it can be delivered.
Okay, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu says there has been a lot of talk about government of national unity. He says, my target is higher than that. The age of gamemanship is long gone. On the contrary, this is all about gamemanship. I'm sorry to say, but that is the truth. In political science in Nigeria, it was Billy Dudley, Professor Billy Dudley, who popularized the concept of game theory in Nigeria's political science, Nigerian politics. To break it down without being pedantic, it simply means in terms of the interaction between or among political actors, you know, there are rational parts in terms of strategy in which you stay ahead of the game. I'm trying to simplify a far more complex concept. So what Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is trying to do is really playing a game. And the game he's playing is to project himself as the owner of the game, to seize the momentum. And I must have mentioned this before in this forum, that immediately he was declared president-elect, he has made a number of moves. He went to visit the president, he went to visit the Oba of Lagos, he showed up in Lagos. He has issued quite a number of statements, and yesterday he issued another statement in which he tried to respond to the idea of forming a government of national unity. So, in that same statement that I issued yesterday, he said, while other people are going to court, while it's their right to do so, I'm going ahead. So he's creating a momentum, he's taking charge, he's trying to take ownership of the game, regardless of what happens, you know, along the judicial process. So that's why this is all about gamemanship. Let us not deceive ourselves. However, the point that he has made is promising to assemble not a government of national unity, but a government of capable, competent people with character. Those phrases are familiar. This is the same thing that Peter Obi talks about all the time. He talks about character, he talks about competence, he talks about collaboration. And isn't it part of the game? When your opponent is saying something, you take ownership of it and you run with it. And, it becomes your own. That's how the game is played. But it is important. Now, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is telling us that he's going to run a cabinet of very competent people, and it will be national competence. The emphasis on national in itself, suggests that it will still be a government of national unity. To be a government that will, reflect the federal character, which is something that he has consistently argued for, federalism. So Nigerians, of course, don't expect a cabinet of mediocres. We expect that it to be a cabinet of very competent people who have character, who have ability, capacity. That's the other word, who have capacity to deliver. Because Nigeria is at a critical point whereby we cannot afford to go forward with the second 11. We have to go out there with the first 11. The other point to be made, of course, is that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in that statement reiterated, some of the highlights of his contract with Nigerians. He says he will provide food, he will eliminate poverty, he will focus on women. That's the game. That's supposed to resonate. He will focus on the youthful energy of Nigerians, which is something that is in his 84-page manifesto, on restoring hope, restoration of hope and all of that, hope assured and all of that. So, but it's good that, he knows how to play the game. Game theory is all about strategy, and he's trying to get ahead of it and, gain the trust of Nigerians, while other players are talking about going to court, talking about collation of results. He is already looking ahead. But he has made all the right noises. But as they say, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. And this is at two levels. When the matter before the tribunal or the courts, is resolved, and if eventually, he's sworn in, then of course, you remember that Nigerians will hold him down to all these promises about all the things he has said, both in his manifesto and in the statement now he issued about what he will do for Nigerians.
Dr. Abati, you inspired me so much again to talk about our brother Nash this morning, Professor Naja talked about game theory, equilibrium, zero-sum game, and the likes. In all of this, what we see is the fact that the zero-sum game is being played on the Nigerian people. When you look at it deeply, it's about the politicians, but not about the Nigerian people. What do the Nigerian people need? They need justice. They need justice as regards an electoral process. So when somebody, the president-elect, starts to talk about national competence and all of that, irrespective of the elections, the question we should ask him is, can he vouch for the process that brought him in? Because yesterday, one of his spokespersons, Mr. Dele Alake, said this election has been the fairest and the fairest since 1999. I put it to Mr. Dele Alake that what he said is untrue. It's a lie. These elections were not free, were not fair, were fraught with a lot of irregularities. And part of the game theory you're also talking about, Dr. Abati, is also media manipulation. That's another game. And that's why I say, see, in the coming days, there's going to be a fight for the truth. What dominates the truth? And in fighting for the truth, a lot of societal actors will deploy many tactics. Part of them is one tactic called gaslighting. What is gaslighting? They tell you something that happened never happened. In fact, they will controvert your evidence and say your evidence isn't true. When people are gaslighting you, after they've been able to controvert your evidence, they say, go and provide your evidence. And you're going to see a lot of that. So Nigerian people, please be watchful. A lot of those games are going to happen. There's going to be an all-out media war in the coming days. It's part of the game. But the sad reality of the game is that Nigerians are always being played in the zero-sum game. The zero-sum game in game theory is pretty much a game that affects and favors the winner, and the other person doesn't get anything. Going back to his statement, it came out to say you build a government of competence, which is supposed to be the right refrain. But the question we should ask is, have we finished interrogating the process that led to its emergence in the first place before we can say we want to build a government of competence? Those are the questions we should ask ourselves. Yes, I have not ever subscribed to government of national unity because we know the historical antecedents of that. Shagari and Azikiwe tried that in 1979. We also ended. It is always going to be skewed in favor of one party or the other. But what a lot of Nigerians are commenting about is the fact that the process and the guidelines, were they followed by INEC? If the answer has been answered as regards that no, then let's allow the court take its course. And let's also be patient and conciliatory in the statement we make. I've got nothing against Bola Tinubu talking about he wants a government of competence. That's what we want, and that's a welcome development. Because for too many times, we've had a lot of incompetent people serve our country. But also we should not, because we are in the spirit of political gamemanship, negating the truth, because the truth is the fabric that builds a society. And the funny thing about the truth is that it is resolute, it is constant, it never leaves. No matter how much you try as much as possible to bring about alternative reality, like Kelly and Conway invented that word, Trump surrogate in America, the truth is constant. And what is the truth about these elections? That INEC didn't follow its own process, and that's why we call on the judiciary to stand tall and allow the truth prevail in this country. So that's the grand analysis of it. But he can say he wants a government of competence, he can do power voting, he can flex muscle and all of that. He's president-elect, but he's still subject to the courts. That's all I'll say about this. Presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has reiterated confidence in the judiciary to adjudicate in controversial presidential election, despite the controversy surrounding some of the rulings in recent times. But he said his trust in the Independent National Electoral Commission has evaporated. He said his confidence was drawn from the fact that justices were Nigerians and they were aware of how bad the situation had been in the country, adding that only the truth and justice will save the country. And what his reaction will be if the nation decided to go on with the situation, he said he will be shocked that if the country went on with the rascality of criminality. The former Anambra State governor said that it was disheartening that the giant of Africa could not deliver a simple election when small nations like Ghana could deliver with small margin errors and big nations like India were delivering with less than 5% margin of error. Obi reiterated his earlier position that what the Independent National Electoral Commission declared was false and that he was challenging the process and the declaration. Ayo.